Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review of Demi-chan with Kataritai, or Interviews with Monster Girls, Episode 3, this one focusing mostly on second best girl, cute and adorable Sato Sakie. My issue with this episode though, right off the bat, is that, this review may be kind of short because it was pretty light, and the romance, I've said this a lot about a lot of shows, the romance is stoning it to death. But okay, I'll explain what I mean part by part. So let's go through this a little bit. We learn a little bit more about Sato Sakie, who again I think is the cutest thing ever, and about her powers and her body producing an aphrodisiac effect. So she has to live far from others, avoid crowds, avoid touching people, avoid falling to sleep around them, things like that. And of course, good guy Takahashi apparently doesn't care, and we get the funny scene of him finding out that he's just playing it cool. Which I thought was really funny, even though it was pretty cliche and predictable. I thought it was funny. Then we have Takahashi interviewing Hikari once again, and finding out that bloodsucking is a little bit more than kissing to her. It's linked to romance and everything. And with this scene starts the first of the three main scenes of the show, and all three being incredibly uncomfortable. There were a few funny moments when he was talking to Hikari there, but most of the scene wasn't romantic at all. It wasn't funny for most of it. It was just very uncomfortable to watch. Again, mostly because he is an adult and she is a student. And I said that can work for some romances, but it usually does not, and it comes off as pretty creepy. Also, then we have the next scene, which I did think was actually really funny, was all the scenes with, the collection of scenes really, with Sakie and Machi, which I thought were really funny in the library, and them talking about liking the same guy. But again, though it was a lot more funny, it was very creepy. Again, it was like a 15-year-old or something talking about liking this guy that's probably over 10 years older than her. It was really just creepy. And very uncomfortable to watch. That was the word, uncomfortable. Then lastly, Yuki hears gossip about herself, of course, and gets really depressed. And watching a character get depressed, again, a little cliche, a little kind of something we've seen a bunch in a ton of different shows. But, yeah, it was just uncomfortable to watch. So that was this episode. The last episode I thought was great. It was very funny, and then this one was, over half the episode was just very uncomfortable. And beyond any of that, the way the romance is written, I'll get this out of the way with, you guys know I have already said two of my favorite anime are romances. Two of my favorite anime, Yurikuma Arashi, genius romance. Same with Mikakuna de Shinkoke. I love that romance. But the thing with this, and the reason this doesn't work, is because it is cliche normal anime romance. And I've said time and time again, I said, there's so many series where I'm like, if it didn't have romance, it might be good, but romance completely ruins it. And why does romance ruin a series? Because you don't need it. To have characters have a connection, people can have relationships and friendships that are not romantic in any way. And when somebody writes that well, it's realistic, it feels good, and it's usually well written. But romance is just like the go-to, man, they need to like each other romantically because we don't have any other way to write connection other than, okay, make them want to bone. Like, it is just really lazy. And the biggest problem with it being cliche is because going through each of these romantic, sort of relationships here, Sakie, she has something that makes it so that, she's uncomfortable around men. She doesn't want to get near him or stuff because of her, body's powers or whatever. But it seems that he doesn't care. So she likes him because he is the one guy that seems immune to it. Seen it a million times. Machi has something that makes her different from the other girls, that makes it so that most guys seemingly don't want her, and she's very self-conscious about it, but he seems to not care at all. So she likes him because of it, romantically, not just respecting him for not judging her, but she likes him romantically because of it, seen it 1,000 million times. And then lastly, what's happening with Yuki and what's going to be happening next episode. people are bullying her or gossiping about her, so she gets depressed, and he's going to come and comfort her and save her from that depression. Seen it a bazillion times. Everything in this episode that, again, was also uncomfortable was things that we have seen in other shows 1,000 times. So that, again, is the biggest problem with anime romance, is that, with the exception of a few good ones, it is the same thing again and again and again. And it's either poorly written, we've seen it so many times we don't want to see it again, or both. And that's just the thing. Romance in anime is just so lazily written, and I really didn't want that for this show because, like I said last episode was very funny. Even though I didn't want teacher and student romance here, I thought it was written really well last episode. This episode, no. Very, very cliche. Very, very cliche. And things can be things that you've seen before. Little Witch Academia has a ton of story elements that we've seen a bunch before, but it handles them very creatively and very well. This was just the same thing we've seen in every other show a million times. So yeah, I gotta say this episode was above average for anime for me. I know it's hard to believe, as negative as I've been on that. It was still nice to look at, it was fun to watch. There are still good things about the show for sure, but it's just compared to the last two episodes, this is definitely the least funny and certainly the least exciting of the three. There's just so far less content in this episode. The animation was still nice, but there was just the big problem of a really heavy-handed cliche, seen it a million times anime romance. So it did have that huge glaring problem. And even looking back at just throwing in some things with other anime that I've seen, oh, the romance ruins it, oh, the romance ruins it. Just look at how badly Kiznaiver had really great animation, had a really great concept. When they had episodes and a focus on them building connections like friendship, it was genius. But then they would throw in random romance, random shipping that was just poorly written. And when it did, I would usually give those episodes like a 2 or a 3 because it was so poorly written. Like much worse than what was written here. And then, like I said, possibly in my opinion, the worst anime episode was Roka no Yusha. They have this thing going on, and then out of nowhere, I think it's like episode 10, I think was the worst episode. Out of nowhere, they're like, okay, I'm in love with this character, is in love with this character. Just no build up, no real strong connections. Just, okay, we need them to have some sort of relationship. Let's make them in love with each other. It is the laziest writing. And that is my huge problem with this episode. I probably should give it a lower score than this, but I still did enjoy watching it. So I'm giving it 6.5 out of 10. 6.5, I don't know. Adorable succubi out of 10. I'm almost feeling like I should give it a 3 or 4 out of 10, but I was still pretty entertained by a lot of it. I still thought it was funny, the Machi and Sakie scenes. I still enjoyed every single bit of Hikari when she was there. So yeah, I still liked it, but if it carries on this cliche, really crappy romance line, it's going to get very old very quickly. So yeah, hopefully they can just throw romance out the window and not do that anymore. That would be very nice if they did that. But yeah, either way, that's my thoughts on this episode. Like if you did like the video, and comment down there to tell me what you thought of this episode and what you thought of my thoughts on it. Subscribe for more Demi-chan with Kataritai, Kobayashi-san Cheating the Dragon Maid, Little Witch Academia, Yojo Senki, One Piece, and a ton of other things on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want, and I'll try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel. That is it, so thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.